Munster versus Domino. Where do you want to take me, Melvin? Where am I looking here?
So I think we need to start looking up in the top lane for the beginning of this pick and ban, because we have got ripped a Riven one trick effectively with, more champions they can play, but that is the kind of thing when you say it, everybody knows, okay, don't want that in the game, I'm not looking at that, versus Stumpy, who I would say has been a bit more of a flexible player. When you pull out the Malphite, it really does show your colors as a top laner of, okay, I understand my role, and I've not got the ego that'll stop me doing it. There you see the Heimerban, which is actually their pocket pick, which I was waiting to see. Both top laners, a lot of respect so far.
You have got to just keep your eyes on that. When someone is able to just say, yeah, I play Heimerdinger top, by the way, you've got to kind of respect that one out. Again, I cut my teeth casting LJL, but of course Seros, who's recently retired, was a big Heimerdinger player. So close to my heart, that pick from a casting perspective, and there, unsurprisingly, Zeriban, sadly for us as casters, but of course stuff like the Ribbon and the Corki, which have been such high priority. Now to see, of course, what Domino feel like for
okay.
some of these ban and John are getting hovered. Yes, there could be some spicy enchanted top lane plays, which have haunted a few other agents, and instead, none will be a sad. Like instead, we'll get the perennial Jin Zhao first pick, which has been pretty popular over the last couple patches.
I was ready to go on the whole Janna top lane Enchanter's speech, but we'll save it until we actually get it in a game because it is way too much of its own isolated rift before we could just break it down bit by bit. What we have now is the response from Munster is that Gwen, who usually top lane, but has actually recently found her way back into the jungle, taking Ghost and just being that minor flex pick, makes it a lot safer of a blind because now you aren't at risk of getting hard countered by the top lane. It's one of those beauties that when you have red side flex picks, things like that, combined with the Thresh, who works with a lot of different bot laners, it's really hard to draft against at that point.
Of course, with Jinx still up and available, you feel pretty happy picking up either the Aphelios or the Jinx, whichever one's kind of left up and available. And Domino here, just going to go back to the kind of standard answer in some ways. Like, I want a hyper pack carry lane as well. They go with the Lulu alongside the Aphelios. Jinx, Thresh, Aphelios, Lulu, two big scaling lanes, which have been pretty popular, as we've already stated. Now into the second phase of bans. Got to see what I feel like solo laners in particular got to be the angle here is Gangplank and initial ban here by MRG.
I think now is kind of that time where it's about the respect of this Enchanter top strategy, how much you're willing to worry. And I would say both these teams have amazing groupings around them so far, because the whole point of this strategy is that you basically want hyper carries on the rest of the map, so you could just abandon top farm and give it to the rest of them. Right now, both of these teams have a brilliant framework, so it's something we really need to keep our eyes on. If not, then we might see more of a traditional draft. Could actually see a potential Malphite angle for Stumpy here on Red 5. When you got the Aphelios and an Enchanter, as opposed to the Thresh, a lot less safety on that pick in team fights.
Absolutely, of course. That pocket ban against Chimera, you don't want to give him the Anivia. It's something he's been famous for a little while now. Of course, to see what that last ban will be. The Malphite away from Stumpy, who did show such disgusting stuff on that the last time. And Munster Rugby Gaming now with that fourth pick. Got to think about probably something like Volibear, what they're hovering right now. You can definitely put that into the jungle. Has been a semi-popular pick, especially up the division. The likes of Dan from JDXL definitely preferring stuff like that. So you block that in. It's a strong engage option. You can duel with the Jin Zhao. You can make dives happen. And they're hovering that Janna again, but we've been baited
already.
before.
I'm not trusting you, Domino. I'm waiting until it's locked in. We'll talk about the Volibear for the moment, because that has really said, okay, this Gwen is going top in most situations. It's very rare you'd see the Volibear move on up to top lane unless your name is Whippo. So, looking at this, it's very clear for Domino what is happening, and this is their chance to get that counter pick. With the Tryndamere up in top lane, the thing is, Gwen loves playing into ranged carries. People that they can abuse that Hallowed Mist and really just play on the edge, kill your front lane, then come to you. The issue is, I just said you have to kill the front line. Tryndamere doesn't let that happen and can outscale you in a side lane.
Yeah, you put down the Thunderdome and Tryndamere happily joins you in there. And that's going to be potentially a challenge now for Stumpy to try and deal with Ripped, as we've already said. That Riven player, that aggressive kind of style of options often for them. So has it gone for that Tryndamere? It will be the Syndra locked in for Shaolin. Standardish control mage, a little bit more pick. Helps set up for some of these big carries in the Aphelios. And now the Tryndamere who'll be playing on that side response from MRG is to lock in the Galio to try and support either the Jinx or the Gwen, whoever is most in need of assistance.
Not completely sure how I feel about the Galio. I like the idea behind it. You see the things like the Tryndamere, the Xin Zhao, those kind of divers who Galio get a massive amount of value, whether it be reactive ults, like you say, or getting a big taunt off. Into the Syndra, it has the extra MR shields that should be able to survive. Won't really be able to get much prio after the Syndra starts to pick up things like Lost Chapter and can just spam out the Qs. So Kemba really does need to be looking to be more active on the map with their jungler, because my money, the mid-jungle duo gets massively outscaled from Munster Rugby Gaming compared to this Syndra Xin Zhao as the game goes on.
All right, we have to keep our eyes on it. Of course, when you've got the Volibear, you have got a dive partner now in the Galio. So at least, even if you're not doing the damage, you can start a fight up and hope that Gwen and the Jinx can make things happen for Munster Rugby Gaming. Of course, we'll see how it all plays out on the Rift. As ever, it's all well and good breaking down the drafts. Let's see how they actually work out in practice. Penny, for your thoughts, Melvin Hissel. If you had to pick one of these drafts and say, yeah, that's the one I favor here, do you have someone you'd place that coin onto?
I am going to do the thing I've started doing recently when I'm asked this question and talk out loud on what my thought process is. So the way I'm looking for like win cons right now, you outlined it very well. There is the Gwen and the Jinx that need to be popping off for Munster if they had to be able to take this. My issue is that it is completely on the mid jungle to get things going. If the first dive bot lane presumably fails, if they can't get this game snowballed, the Syndra can threaten the Gwen, threaten the Jinx, more importantly, from a good enough range that they're not going to be in fear of a Volibear engage. It's very difficult for you to get onto them proactively, and even if you do, the Xin Zhao disengage, Aphelios can disengage himself, Lulu disengage. So I'm going to say I favor Domino out loud right now, but Munster definitely do have the active windows to get things rolling. They just need to be the proactive team.
Okay, so they've heard what Melvin wants to see from it, and I tend to agree there. The only additional caveat I might add is, of course, side on Shaolin there. Xin Zhao and Syndra together, definitely a pretty dangerous combo to something like a Galio, which is not necessarily the most lane-dominant champion, and I feel like someone you could potentially punish, especially once things like level 6 come through. Get a lot of bursts from those two champions.
Definitely. If Sidon can be proactive on the map, and I would say just making sure that there's no room for the Volibear to get things done early, this game should be lights out in Domino's favor, because you can play out the game how you want to later on. The only real risk that I'm thinking of right now is seeing if Ript has actually gone for the Flash Ghost, which is the Tryndamere standard, in which case maybe there's advantages you can do if Stumpy has gone for the teleport. We'll see that in just a moment's time as we are loading in for the moment. And it's really that kind of smarter map play that we need to see from Munster if they're going to get ahead on this one, because otherwise Domino, they should be able to win any of their lanes with even the slightest advantage.
You've heard that one. It's going to be certainly something to keep our eyes on. Munster do have the tools to make dives happen, do have the tools to get things rolling, but of course, we've seen what Tryndameres can do when they're given a little bit of leeway. Oh hell, not even any leeway. They just press R and ignore all the leeway you've not given them and just run at you anyway. That could prove a little problematic as we are on to the Rift for game 1 of the day. Domino versus Munster Rugby Gaming, 2-2 versus 3-1. A very important middle of the pack team as Ript might not look for a level 1 invade there. That could have gotten a little bit wary.
Always the drama at level 1 when you have this kind of bush camp ready to go. Just want to avoid any kind of practice plays from the enemy that could really get that vision down and rat you out in these first few levels. We've been talking so much about the junglers. I think we should probably start talking about some of the individual lane matchups. Which one of these side lanes do you all really hit on first?
Well, I feel, considering we've mentioned Ript and Stumpy before and how critical they've been, particularly, say, Stumpy, who has been able to flex that style of play around a little bit and then look towards things like the Malphite that got banned away, I feel like that's going to be a fairly interesting one to keep our eyes on, especially considering how dangerous both of those champions get as the game goes on. And we are actually in a pause, Melvin, so I think we might be able to talk about it a bit more in depth.
Yeah, and I'm glad that now we get the added context of runes, summoners, all that kind of stuff. So we see that Stumpy has actually opted for the Exhaust plus Teleport with Lethal Tempo against the Flash Ghost Lethal Tempo Tryndamere. So the logic I'm seeing from that is Stumpy's just trying to not die to them, because an extended trade against Tryndamere obviously doesn't work unless you can kill them before the ultimate really starts to get that value. So this looks to be like they want to duel post 6. They want to be trying to get these good trades in their favor and then go for elongated long ones up in that top lane. Because when you have the Lethal Temper as opposed to the Conqueror, you do need to be constantly fighting to get any real value from it now, since it's had a couple of those changes since pre-season start.
All right, well, that could be potentially dangerous. And of course, see whether that exhaust choice, which isn't necessarily what you call standard Gwen rune summoner spells, pays off here, or whether it will get punished. Another ones to keep an eye on, of course, are these bot lanes where Jinx Aphelios going to be very important. Ripped takes a very nasty trade. Did not get level 2 first there. The hook landing the bot side as well. Ignite coming down. Double flay forces the heal out of Denden, taken very, very low. But now the turnaround is beginning to come through from Chris, who's misses that moonshot, so at least will get traded back. Is in mid lane. Shaolin beginning to be a little aggressive as well.
Let me know. We got actually just stuff happening in every single lane at this point. Very much just all of the Munster team trying to get something done with that level lead in the bottom lane. You can always fish for potential early kills, and you need to, because when you're against double ranged in this bot lane, the Enchanter plus the Aphelios, if you let them get ahead in the lane, they will just be able to stand behind the minions and abuse the Thresh, and there's really not much Blue will be able to do, and it'll pretty much just generate into permanent prio. So, I like what they're doing right now, using that early power, getting the actual skirmish stats down with that glacial augment to really lock them up and get off to a good start in this bot lane.
All right, that's the option. You can sort of see how it's supposed to work. Thresh lands a hook. Jinx puts down the chompers. You flay them into it, and people feel really sad about their lives. And the summoner trades there, of course, did come through with Denden the heal versus Baloo's ignite. And as it stands, slight edge towards this Jinx. And in the mid lane, never mind that, because we've got a fight going on as Baloo takes the option after that back to get a roam to mid lane and get first blung to Kaboosh.
Well, they were listening. I like that. They're getting stuff done straight away, using that priority from the bottom lane to be able to roam on up right there. You'd see that right now we have the Domino bot lane walking back. Just extra time that the Thresh can leverage. Much more successful roams than the Lulu is likely to get. So, with that early lead kicked off, it is not going to be the game won off of just that, though. They need to keep this constantly going. They have put themselves under the requirement for action. Gabosh does have that sheen already, though, so these skirmishes with the volley bet should be going pretty well for them.
Yeah, feeling pretty happy off that one, of course, building towards that Divine Sunderer. No surprise there on the champion. Does, of course, mean that Chimera, not with the wave in the best state, having gone in for that engagement, is down a bit of CS, but, of course, having managed to get the flash, having managed to get the TP out of Shaolin, does feel a little bit better about having traded his own summoners there, and need to see whether Gabosh can make more out of this early game, more out of what can happen, especially once you get towards that level 6 and some of those tower dives become more of an option as well.
And I'm quite confident right now, just because of the wards that Blue managed to get down after that roam to mid, that it should be pretty safe for Munster right now. You've had permanent tracking of Sidon on this ins out for basically the entire start of the game at this point, and as soon as they drop off of these wards, you know where they're going to be going, so really good stuff from Munster pre-6 right now. Getting Khemra through this early nuisance where Syndra can start to poke you down. You don't have the stats to be able to fight back. You see that they've actually opted for the Predator. It's a very aggressive choice, lets them roam to the jungle to get in these skirmishes, lets them get that full-on engage to almost mimic the Galio of past where you could get the Flash Taunt. Very oppressive.
Flash Taunt was a pretty busted interaction on Galio, I think all remember. That was like one of the few champions that Mata was good at the time, unfortunately, when he was playing for, I believe, T1 was the team who was playing that Galio on at the time. It got very scary in camera. It just hits that level 6, so the heroic entrance is available. That means the Volley Bear Galio combo is now online and ready to go. Munster Rugby do also pick up this initial dragon, starting to use a little bit of that early pressure to their advantage.
Okay, so we've got the mountain and then the ocean up next. Looking at the available souls, I'm trying to think of which would be the most favorable for them. I would say that when I look at it now, I almost like to categorize the souls because the Cloud and the Hex Tech provide very similar things to the map, just added speed, added rotation value. I think when you're against a Tryndamere, you are pretty happy with either of those. So realistically, it's only going to be the Infernal that I think they'll be super upset with.
Interesting. It's not very often you say I'm upset about getting Infernal Soul, considering how strong in just having more damage often is, or at least how satisfying it feels, right?
Definitely that one. And I think it's almost a bit of a placebo effect, because for the longest time... Ooh, hold
Never
on.
mind. You know what? Never mind placebo effects, because it's not a placebo dive. That Sidon being forced onto the tier 2 camera, even with the Predator, can't quite get on top of Sidon. Instead, Gaboosh trying to make the most of having the level 6 early, does get the flash out of Sidon, but can't get anything more.
Okay, so I know I asked for early aggression. I don't know if I meant diving tier 2 tower level of aggression. The bot lane was just sat right there like, okay guys, mid jungle's behind us right now. They're not diving us, so we're safe to just sit around and exist, but imagine you get off lucky, I would say, as Chris.
Are you going to tell a polar bear, like, no? Like, that's never going to be a great look. Exactly. I think Gaboosh just playing with the fantasy there. That's what it is. As, does, of course, remember, note that Merbs, of course, did pick up the cull on that an early sort of back they got off the shove in the bot side. Feeling pretty happy stacking that, of course, because you saw Chris and Dendon kind of wondering whether they need to go support their jungler. Didn't necessarily get all the wave they were looking for. So, Munster Rugby feeling pretty okay about this early game. They're feeling pretty stable in their lanes. They're trading pretty well. But, of course, the later this game goes, you are going to start to get more options in the side lanes for Domino. You are still not exactly miles and miles behind. And, you know, Aphelios plus Lulu is a dangerous combo at the best of time. Hell, Lulu plus Jinza was a disgusting combo not so long ago.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the things about that is when you have the Aphelios Lulu in particular, your dive threats are Volibear, Gwen, maybe a little bit of Galio, depending on how you look at it in context, but around team fights, when you have the amount of peel that you've got for Domino, it's going to be really difficult for you to actually kill Chris, and Merbs is going to be the only person I'd say that who can consistently actually hit this Aphelios. So it really does need to be pushing every margin that they get. I like the cull for that purpose. You're not exactly going to be getting kills in this lane, provided that Denden and Chris are playing respectfully. Yeah, you can get the early level 1 kind of flip that goes in your favor, but unless we see some kind of god hooks from Blue, I don't expect a massive amount of isolated action down here. Again, all about Gaboosh, where they go with that Volibear. Going towards the Divine Sunderer will make them a massive nuisance early, but they will start to fall off once it starts to get to that 2-item point around the map.
Okay, that's a big call out. Of course, you want to also call out that Chris and Denden did get a nice little shove in to get 2 plates off a slightly mistimed back, I think it's probably fair to say, from Merbs and Baloo. 7 plus Crescendum is a pretty nasty combo for shredding tower plates, and that helps alleviate some of the CS discrepancies that were going on down there. And actually, with the Herald spawned, they're going to start roaming up towards that top side of the map. And interestingly, Chris and Denden going for the reset here rather than for the full shove-in.
I like this half rotate from Munster where they walked on up, saw that there was no clear contest happening, and decided to send Merbs back to the bottom lane. This is something that is so often criticized in pro play for having everybody come up to this Herald and then losing 2-3 tower plates bot lane. And it's like, okay, you didn't actually come out net profit at all here. So at this point, I love the call out right there on we actually see the back from the Aphelios Lulu, because it means that now you really lose across the map. You don't get to hit tower, you don't get to actually contest the Herald. So at this point, the best reason I could say for that is you're just posturing to try and get this dragon in 30 seconds, since you at least get a favorable reset there.
Cool. Well, I was going to say I kind of agree. It's actually, no, I just straight out agree. No, it has been a serious critique, I think, that's been true of a lot of commentators across the world, say, yeah, you really didn't all need to go towards this Herald, especially when you start losing 3-4 plates for that rotation. You know, that's way more than the expected value of a Herald most times. So for all that it's nice to pick up the big sort of like shiny purple battering ram, like if you're not necessarily getting the value from it you think you are, if that's what it's costing you, is just a little bit of attention turning up around this bot side river, because of course Dragon number 2 has spawned, and I'll be interested to see whether Sidon thinks about contesting this, but as it stands, unlikely, especially with Stumpy having made the early roam down here.
And Munster just getting away with murder here. Right? We saw that Denden got some great preliminary vision down, but because Shaolin needed to base, and because you weren't grouping up as a 3 to proactively stop them, they're just too strong to walk into and hope for the flip. Unless you are getting a good play here, it's not worth it for Domino. Just play it safe and wait, especially because you rolled high on the Rift, IMO.
Absolutely, and there's going to be a little bit of hook coming through, and that's what we asked for as well. Can you land some guard hooks? Not quite, as the Flame Chompers don't connect afterwards, but nice little moment there, and Merbs continuing to feel increasingly happy in this lane, up somewhere between 15 and 20 CS, depending on how these waves clear out. You've got that Cull cashing in and about another half a wave after this one. Feeling pretty secure, and Merbs has been putting up excellent numbers for Munster Rugby Gaming all season long so far, and it's a stable early game with a hyper carry that's getting gold on a character like Merbs, who's been pretty good at dealing with those leads early on for Munster. So good news thus far. That's going to be their Lantern coming forwards. Never mind talking big picture. We've got to talk about tower dives. Hook lands onto Denden. He's dead to rights. They can start getting excited on the Jinx and put down the Herald here to try and secure first turret as well.
So, what on earth can you do as the counter-attack from Domino? Because this tower is gone. There's nothing you can do about it. Munster once again rotating up to mid. I like this from Sidon for getting him to position to defend their mid lane up, because you know there's going to be the massive roam up. I would love to see both of these two roam up to top lane right now and potentially do something to the Gwen. Remember, it is a no-flash champion, so provided you can get past the Hallowed Mist, you are going to get very successful dives. As Shelly actually gets a second crash right there. That's going to be a massive nuisance later.
I was about to say expected value of a Rift Herald, 2 plates, yada, yada, yada. That's, full first tower and a second charge, and you get the kill. That's a lot over kind of baseline value there. And it's leading to 2,500 gold lead.
So we need to see what on earth Domino can actually do. I mean, again, they are happy to sit back and wait. You just can't let the enemy get too far ahead. This is something that I've seen a decent amount recently, where you go for the scaling route, and I think that Bounties has almost gone to feed into people's perception of the game that, oh yeah, we can just sit back and wait. We don't have to do anything. Bounties will kick in, we could get one tower, suddenly the game flips on its head, we've scaled. Thing is, you do need to stay at least active on the map. You can't just forfeit all pressure, otherwise you are going to lose, because there are so many good ways to end the game, between Elder being really prevalent with an early Soul and Baron itself. I like this right here, fishing for Merbs.
Oh, beautiful. Over the wall. Baloo has just been absolutely monstrous at this point. Gets that kill onto Chris, and bot lane just being prioritized. They're going to jump on a Sidon as well, but look, Ripped here as well. Maybe they've gone a little bit too deep on the escape. Flash forward from Sidon, and Kaboosh, yes, he's trading well with Denden, but they're going to try and get something back. Baloo is still alive. It's a 1-for-1 right now as Sidon gets one. Ripped goes invulnerable for now, but he can't avoid all the needles, and that is not an acupuncture session he was looking for. Double kill to Stumpy, and Munster Rugby Gaming are now 6-1 in the kill lead. Disgusting stuff.
They're actually just walking it in. There's really not much more to say about it. Munster getting proactive and preempting the play from Domino. They were playing very reserved in the top lane by Merbs, not just walking up and full clearing the wave. Made it so you almost lured into a false sense of security for Domino, and that amazing engage over the wall gets really everything done. Full tower top lane about to go over the Jinx. Plates may be down, but that is the only respite you get for Domino.
And suddenly from 2,000, you're looking more like 4,500 gold. It's all in the right places as well. You've got a couple kills onto your Gwen, you've got a load of turret plates and a kill onto your Jinx. Even your early game volley bet, 3-0-2, that is one mighty, mighty polar bear.
They are being super proactive, and it is exactly what we want. So I think that we're entering into a little bit of a lull state. We got the dragon spawning in a minute. This is going to be an important one to see if Domino want to actually contest it, or if they're just going to forfeit pressure. Taking a look at itemization, I'm expecting Kemra to be able to base and get that Everfrost by the looks of it. But after that, it's going to be pretty much even across the board for items.
I've got a second Herald spawning within a minute. Yes, there's also going to be this third Drake spawning as well, but Munster Rugby is saying they're actually kind of going to prioritize this Rift Herald for now. They're thinking that with the amount of towers they've got down, they might be able to get some more of that. Merbs gets a shove onto this top lane towards the tier 2, and map control feeling very much in Munster Rugby Gaming's favor. They've got pretty much every neutral objective. They've got every neutral objective as it stands in this game.
And the worst part here is that you don't have any way to counter-attack right now, because look at your engage options. It is exactly a Syndra landing a massive Scatter the Weak, or Sidon finding a flank. If you don't get either of those, you can't aggress onto them, and this is going to be their best attempt.
They get a double taunt. Stumpy's just found a flank, forces to flash out of Shaolin. But now the fight's going to continue. Caboose is going to stay alive best they can. Sidon is going in. He's got the wild growth on top of them. That will be Stumpy being shut down. Heroic Entrance is a little too late. Super Mega Death Rocket coming through. Ripped is going to start ripping through health bars. Shaolin stays alive somehow, some way. And Chris with the chakrams flaring. Not going to get too much damage. Merbs gets so much at the back end of it in trade. Zap dodged away from with Whimsy helping the speed up. And that's the 1-for-1 trade. Top laner for mid.
Chris pretty much pumping out as much DPS as humanly possible on the Aphelios at this point. Kraken Slayer in tow. They had something like 8 chakrams for a good 10 seconds there, and still only able to collect 1 kill and handing Munster over the soul point. Yes, I know I said it wasn't one that you would be particularly fond of to have on the Rift, but you will always take an Infernal Soul. It is still going to feel good and do a lot more for your carries this game.
When you're already snowballed so far ahead, when you're already struggling to stay alive, Domino in a very challenging position. Soul point, sub 20 minutes. They are down 5 kills, they're down a number of towers. It's pretty difficult for me to see how they're going to get back into this one. Even when you get what felt like a best case scenario fight there, they only get the 1 kill, and going to continue getting difficult because it's not like Munster Rugby scale poorly either.
I think that this kind of comes back to a fundamental issue with Domino Esports, at least in this current form. Potentially just early season blues, but I'll stop there a moment.
Forcing out the Crescent Guard, going to get in through it by Justice punching forwards. Gets Wild Growth, could try and take this one, but Merbs, of course, got a Gale. Force inside on with no flash. Stuck in the Raptor Pit, but here come the rest of Domino. Try and keep their jungler alive. Camera going back in. There's going to be the Idol of Duran to get more stuns, and they get the kill onto the Jintao on a rampage, but teleporting in. I think that might be a bit bold, Stumpy. Has got the Hallowed Mist and is shortly immune. Running with a pair of scissors through the jungle, does manage to get their way out of dodge.
Okay, well, that is Gwen most definitely being immune. No better way to put it. Strolling out after the teleport in is going to result in a kill, but a lot invested with not much to gain across the map. And I think one of the main things that you can take away there is you get to see the safety added by this Jinx build of the Gale Force into Rapid Fire. You are out of range of all of the enemy's damage with the exception of Shaolin, and even then, if you're not getting hit by the Syndric, you are basically just going to free hit for the entire fight. You won't do maximum damage, but when you're ahead, it's kind of like you're just doing exactly what a normal Jinx would do on curve, but from double the range.
Double the range. Stumpy looking to get in here and double the kill score. That's 1 back. Actually, as the powers unleashed by Shaolin, but they've already traded straight back over the mid lane. Chris trying to stay alive, does get a decent Moonlight Vigil, but it's just not going to be enough. Taunted and taken down is Dendon. Chris just about dodges away from the Super Mega Death Rocket, and that will be a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Munster Rugby Gaming. Ripped, though, was not there, and we'll trade this for this top lane tower. But, of course, it's a Herald and Inventory, which means this is always going to be a Munster Rugby favored shove.
I can still remember very clearly having a second Herald plus Jinx end the game at 20 minutes. This doesn't look like it will be the case right now, but it is something you need to be very much afraid of if they had opted to go for it. Yes, Munster will lose the tier 1 top lane tower and hand over a bounty, but I really don't think you care at this point, because on the Infernal Rift, this map is open now. This is open season. You could go hunting with this Volley Bear, and if you do not have your disengage tool, the Xin Zhao ult, the Syndra E, Lulu kind of in the vicinity, you will die, because you have so many great tools to collapse after, the Jinx ultimate, the Galio ultimate. Gwen not got TP at the moment, but they're going to be able to side lane for a little bit and have that up before the key objectives. I'm really scared if I'm Domino, and I think that we're starting to see why they have banned Caitlyn every game, because this early game aggression and early rotations have been too much for them to handle.
That's a Shurelius, that's the Lantern, that's the double taunt, and they'll get the hook, and they will absolutely make him sink down straight afterwards. There's no lifeline here, and they're going to go down. They're going to take an easy route back towards the Baron of Munster Rugby Gaming, and at nearly 21 minutes, they'll secure the big purple worm.
Did you ever see the film Open Season?
I did.
Yeah, we've got Baloo, so I'm like, it's not the same bear, but it's a pretty similar, like, principle at least, you know.
for a character that's all about, you know, the bare necessities, getting away with the minimum in life and living happily through it, this is not the bare necessities. This is like a monstrously, like, extravagant, decadent feast.
This is
that the
Baloo
bot
the
lane has been
accountant
having
right
so
here.
far. Yeah, exactly. Renee.
He went to college, he's got a great job right now, he is a proactive early game jungler, and it is being rewarded tenfold right now. Oh no, you lost 2 bounty turrets. You're about to be walking down with Baron at the Infernal Soul Point at 22 minutes. Even if this goes wrong, you're going to be able to collect on towers. Look on the minimap, you could see the damage dealt to the mid and the bot inhib tower even. That is already chunked to belief. Jinx will be able to free hit those, a cannon minion with it, and I expect there to be inhibs going down on this first Nash push.
I'm looking around, it's pretty much 2 items complete, even more, for Munster Rugby Gaming, with the exception of Chimera on the Galio. And the other side, it's still half items, mostly outside of Syndra, or with the Shadow Flame, and you can see it in the gold totals.
Gone.
You can see it in the way this game is gone, and this will be Infernal Soul taken. They get a hold of it, and Domino couldn't fight it being down the item anyway. It's such a difficult position. They've got 2 control walls on the entrances to their red side jungle. That is as far as their territory extends right now, and I'm not sure they could defend it even if they tried.
They are most definitely going to have to recede from this one. There is nothing they can do to try and look here. And the reason for that is, you're talking about mid lane
Yes.
being down in items. Kemra's the only person who is down in gold, but it's a utility Galio. They just want to run in, get a big taunt, Everfrost, and stopwatch. There are 3 Zhonya items available, all for Munster. So even if you get a pick, it doesn't mean you get the kill.
Well, they get the pick onto
Classic
Baloo
curse.
literally the moment you spoke about it. So they managed to fight 1 member without a stopwatch, and that time clearly needed not even the bare necessities and was taken out. That
do a bit
is
of
a
caster
decent level
cursing.
of Dominus. I know, literally, the moment we speak about it. That does at least give Domino a bit of breathing space. They managed to kill 1 member of Munster Rugby Gaming. Might stymie the push a little bit, but Stumpy's shoving up this top wave. You've still got Chimera in mid. You've still got enough people towards that bot lane to keep the shove up. And now to see whether Domino can find another pick, because they're going to need more than just the support to shut this wave down.
And I've been passively keeping my eyes on ripped itemization here. They've gone for the Kraken Slayer. They do a lot of damage, but they don't have that Gale Force dash that lets them get onto the carries. And the Quick Blades, while they give you a bit extra utility, it's not the same thing. You go that when you want to be ultimating more, like we just see he has to do to retreat. But it doesn't mean you could get past the wall that is Thresh, Galio, Volibear stuns. So much stuff in your way. Will Munster be able to get out here, though?
3v2. Chimera flashes the scout of the week. Big slow as well. And now they're going to actually think about turning it around if Domino steps too far. And the Dominoes fall. That's 2 dying already. And now they need to see whether they can stop anything else crumbling afterwards. Maybe won't be the entire house of cards quite yet, but my days 2 dead already. The man advantage is strong. They're going to get shoving in with what remains of this Baron buff that's just faded, in fact. And they're going to teleport in and maybe look to end Melvin.
I think they can go for it right here. We've got 20 seconds left on 2 members. Flash forced out, and Shaolin does not have the wave clear to look for anything, but this will be Munster being respectful. They can easily kill this tower, get the inhib, stroll away, and look at those spawn timers for objectives. 2.5 minutes on the Baron, 3.5 minutes on the Elder. If you want to be maximum safety for Munster, you can easily just deny Tryndamere pushing for the next 2 minutes, grab both of them, and there is 0 win cons for Domino that don't involve you running it down.
That's a decent stuff from Shaolin, though. Going to force Caboose to use that Thundering Charge, but won't be chased down any further. And Ripped did get at least a bounty there. That tier 2 turret is worth a decent amount of gold. It's just a drop in the bucket, unfortunately, compared to the vast investment funds that Munster Rugby Gaming have got right now. And Ripped is actually going to find Baloo by the Wolf Camps, which perhaps was not what he was expecting as a Tryndamere.
Not exactly the quick camp that you could just grab and stroll away from, but it's not going to result in anything at this point. I expect it to just be pretty passive, not too much happening from both sides. So, in reality, how's your day been?
My day has been pretty good. My day has been kind of prepping for this and resting my voice after Division 1 yesterday, so I've been kind of like hyping myself up for this, took it nice and easy, had a bit of a storyline meeting, and then get to sit down with you for this first game, first taste of Division 2 for me as well, and it's been a bit of a stomp, but a fun one.
It has been an entertaining stomp. I just love how cleanly Munster have played this. Having seen the organization play for a while, this is by
I know.
far a brilliant performance from them. Just using the early game power from this mid-jungle duo to just textbook, really. That's the best way to say it. This has been a textbook game. You could see how it was meant to play out, and they have executed every step of the way. Even getting a bit of additional sieging here with Kemra running it down bot lane in a positive way.
Absolutely, and what a step up from being kind of towards the bottom of the end of the UKEL last year to contesting for the top end of the table here in Division 2. Kaboosh does go in, that's the massive taunt afterwards. And now Merbs gets to run them down. This could be the full penta, but not before Stumpy claims one, claims another. They're going to get ripped just about down low, but he's got himself Undying Rage, but not for long enough. A quadra to Merbs to finish this game out in sub 30 minutes. Munster Rugby Gaming with a clinic.
Brilliantly executed from start to finish, and it's one of those games that you look at and you could see it falling step by step, and ironically, it was like the dominoes going down that ended up being how Munster took this one.
It really, really was. Welcome back. We're still here. We're a little bit shell-shocked, actually, because we set this one up to hopefully be a bit of a close game, and Munster Rugby just said no, is what they did, and they came in, and they moved to 4-1. They proved why they are looking like one of the best teams in Division 2. That was pretty much every lane playing phenomenally, bluntly.
Yeah, that was listening to some podcasts earlier. There's a lot of league content starting to boost up right now, and one of the things that resonates from that one is if you have a comp that fundamentally works and you play your conditions properly, very, very difficult to have any form of answer.
It really is. And you kind of saw there the oppressiveness. The volley bear gets rolling early, gets that first blood. They get to dive bot with the Herald. They snowball from there. Jinx is ahead. Stumpy does just fine into the top lane. Yes, you get a little bit of a CS lead on your Syndra, but then you just start diving her repeatedly, and she has a horrible time too. And clinical stuff with not a huge amount to be said, unfortunately, from Domino. We're going to have to go back to the drawing board after this one and figure out kind of how they bled out so much early.
Right, so I think that gives us a couple moments to go to break while we get ready some interviews for everybody,
know,
and we
right?
can try and find out a bit more, dissect that game with some of the players.
Excellent stuff. With that, we are going to do just that. We've got 2 interviews coming up, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.